The beginning after the end. Chapter 2. The Encyclopedia of Mana Manipulation.
I was a king. I could have my country's army gathered at my feet, kneeling with a snap of my fingers. I defeated my competitors from different countries, as well as my own, to settle disputes and maintain my position. In terms of fencing and key control, I was unrivaled, as having personal strength was essential to becoming a ruler in my previous world on Earth. Kings were not born, but created. However, I can't think of a prouder moment than now. I can crawl, baby. Until now, I had to make do with the stories that Mom told me while trying to get me to sleep. I made some noises that sounded like complaints when she stopped telling stories too soon. My father would sometimes sit me on his lap while he talked lazily about his old days, which gave me some insight into what kind of world this was and what it was filled with. Reynolds Lewin, a former adventurer, apparently that's an occupation in this world, had plenty of experience in this field. He took part in various groups on expeditions to search for treasure and fulfill missions acquired from the Adventurers Guild. He eventually calmed down when he met my mother on the borders of the kingdom in a town called Valden. He proudly told me how my mother was crazy about him at first sight when he visited the Adventurers Guild Hall in the town where she worked, but I suspect it was the opposite of how my mother slapped him on the back of the head and told him to stop telling lies to me. My name is Arthur Lewin now, by the way. Art, to cut a long story short, which, as a former king, sounds a bit too cute. But hey, after taking a look at myself in the metal sheet they use as a mirror in the bathroom, I looked incredibly adorable. I have my mother's bright red hair, while my eyes are a bright blue color, inherited from my father. I don't know what my facial features will look like as I mature, but as long as I don't get fat, I'll be fine. Watch out for big boys here, girls. Prepare to have your heart broken. Weeks of trying to crawl, but barely able to drag myself in place, I managed to crawl, sneaking into the family library study room while my mother hung out the washing to dry. My mother lamented the day I started to get around, sighing, "I swear you're going to become as difficult to look after as your father." I closed the encyclopedia and sat more comfortably on the floor, which meant that I just lay on my stomach, because crawling and sitting in the correct posture is very tiring. Pondering what I'd just read, this world seemed very underdeveloped. From what I can gather, there doesn't seem to be much technology. The only source of transportation seems to be horse-drawn carriages, varying in size for the land, and ships with sails for the rivers. Weapons were freely allowed and not really regulated, unless you were visiting the royal family or people of such authority. For God's sake, I still get confused every time I see people carrying guns while shopping. Of course, in my previous world, Earth, there were soldiers and guards who carried concealed weapons, but not for the purpose of killing, but to prevent crimes from happening. But here, I witnessed a thief who stole some items from the armory the other day, being cut in half at the waist by a big bald mercenary carrying a pole weapon. Seeing this, the citizens went so far as to applaud that huge monk. One similarity that this world and my previous world shared is the monarchy system. This continent of Dicathan has kingdoms where each kingdom consists of a king and a ruling royal family. Unlike on Earth, however, the king is chosen on the basis of lineage, going from the king's son to his son, and so on, after examining the